Every day is a journey, full of magic, wonder, adventure. As we drift into October and November, I find myself ruminating on the little things that make ordinary days magical. I invite you to wander with me, to explore and enjoy the little things that make October and November romantic, mysterious, full of hope and comfort. These are the little everyday things that make my days magical, and I hope they'll do that for you too. On our quest to find magic, our first stop must of course be the most magical places on earth, books. One of the best activities you can do in the fall is to visit a library or a bookstore and come home with an absolute stack of books. In this season, I find it's best to mix some new books with some comfort rereads, and at least for my preferences, I love to mix genres, so I have lots of options depending on what mood I'm in. I'll begin with some of my personal reread recommendations, starting with the most obvious, the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. I mention it because I still can't believe how many people in my life have never read this series. You might think that being an adult, you've missed your opportunity to enjoy it, but honestly, from magical castles and playful writing to deep friendships and profound themes of love and sacrifice, I find this is a series anyone can enjoy. It lights up your imagination to see the magic in your own everyday life, and it's perfect to read snuggled up by a fire or even just lying in bed. If you're looking for something a little more spooky or suspenseful, then I'd consider one of the world's foremost mystery authors, the Duchess of Death, Agatha Christie. The first book I read by her was And Then There Were None. This book is great if perhaps you want to dip your toes into murder and mystery, but horror and gore really aren't your thing. Also, if you prefer to watch, there are not one but two great options, one 1945 film and a BBC series from 2015. Next, I can't picture fall without a Jane Austen novel. Most people would say Northanger Abbey or Mansfield Park are most apt for fall, but I just love Persuasion. Something about the melancholy undertone of the story, the unrequited love lingering through its pages, the way the scenes are described when the author talks about the sea and travel, it just feels so right for the season. Another classic favorite I would recommend is The Chronicles of Narnia. I think most people have heard of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, but this entire series has so much depth and so much to discover. It's really an excellent option if you are at all into fantasy. Finally, my last reread recommendation is nonfiction, The Sacred Romance by John Eldredge. The fall is such an introspective season, and this book is an excellent guidebook to direct your thoughts. It's a Christian exploration of deepening your relationship with your heart, understanding and satisfying our need for romance and connection with God, and journeying through your own memories, your heart, and your story. Now, I'll move on to the new books I'm diving into this season. I'm currently working on Dracul, which is a highly recommended and very spooky novel regarding Bram Stoker's life and encounters with vampires. I'll only tell you that although this novel was originally published as a fiction, Bram Stoker actually intended for it to be published as nonfiction, and I will leave the rest for you to discover. Next is The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. Several of my friends have read this book and recommended it, and the reviews on it are amazing. Here's a clip of the summary. Nobody Owens, known as Bod, is a normal boy. He would be completely normal if he didn't live in a graveyard, being raised by ghosts, with a guardian who belongs to neither the world of the living nor the dead. This book is described as a modern classic, and I am thrilled to find out what exactly that means. To add a classic, slower-paced book to the list, I will start my journey through In Search of Lost Time by Proust. It took him over 10 years to write, and it sounds fascinating. Exactly the sort of self-reflective literature that I think is hypnotizing in the fall. Here's a blip of the summary. This book is a panoramic and richly comic portrait of France in the author's lifetime, and a profound meditation on the nature of art, love, time, memory, and death. I think this one will be a great read for morning coffee or for long rainy days. Next, I will dive into The Blue Castle by Ellen Montgomery, who wrote the Anne of Green Gables series and many others. This is a more mature work by her, which explores a young woman's rebellion and adventure after she gets some shocking news from the doctor. The way that the atmosphere of this book is described and just how very capable Ellen Montgomery is with creating richly beautiful scenery makes me really excited to read this one. Finally, for a more contemporary, easy read, I'm excited to jump into In the Company of Witches. This is the first in a series, and it's full of witch history, a small town and bed and breakfast, a mystery solved to clear the family name. It's got such a cute cover that my 4-year-old's been insisting we dive into it. I'm really looking forward to jumping into this one. Now that we know the books that we will be enjoying, let's dive into the cups that will be sitting next to us in the process. I have 3 favorite teas to share with you that I go back to again and again. As an avid tea lover, it's important to me that there are options which suit my state of mind and feed my soul. Having a warm cup of tea in hand is about more than just the beverage. It's about the ritual of brewing something slowly, with care. Something that will nourish your body and soothe your mind. It's about finding that particular scent that meets you where you're at and taking baby steps toward living slowly. My first favorite is from an independent tea shop in Seattle that's been around since 1988. It's called Roasted Chestnut, and it is just the dreamiest balance of flavors that just scream fall. There is something so warm about this tea. I love it by itself, with a spot of milk, or we also love it for bubble tea in our house. I highly recommend this one. The next tea is a well-known one, Cinnamon from Harney & Sons. This tea is a strong cinnamon blend, which is comforting, warm, and lightly sweet due to the sweet clove in the blend. In traditional herbalism, cinnamon was used to boost vitality, improve circulation, and clear congestion. It's known as one of the best herbs around to stabilize blood sugar levels. There is a decaf version of this tea, which is an excellent option for fall evenings. And if you're feeling like a treat, you can drop a fresh large marshmallow right on top and watch it turn into a delicious puddle of cream that'll make each sip even more special. The last tea is a recent favorite, Pumpkin Chai Latte by Spice and Tea Exchange. One of my closest friends gave me this tea some time ago, and lately I've been loving it. It's a mellow chai blend with just a hint of pumpkin spice to it. It's perfect for enjoying with an old movie or a book in the evening. With books and teas planned, I also look to fall as a time for renewed creativity. I find that the beautiful colors that God paints across the natural landscape are inspiring. When I see the sunlight streaming in at just the right angle, telling you that if you look up, you'll see reds, oranges, yellows, and purples all painting a work of art on the horizon. It makes me want to paint and make beautiful things too. I have a few crafts and hobbies planned for the season, some just for myself and some for the little hearts and hands in my life. I love to paint and draw, but I am not great at either one. As a mom of 2, I find it so relaxing to do an activity which is a little more zen and guided than freehand painting. I love to pick a paint by numbers that fits the season, and I know this is going to give me something beautiful for my home at the end. When possible, I love to take inspiration from the nature that surrounds us to be creative. So, a little project I'm doing with my daughter this year is to make some fall leaf bookmarks. It's about as simple as a craft project gets, and it's such a great one with kids. You really don't need to do much more than go outside and grab some leaves, but you can make it more elaborate if you want. In our case, we chose to laminate them just to prevent some crunching and mess making in the process. And I know that these are going to last us for years to come. During this introspective time of year, I love to write letters to some of our loved ones who live far away. And since around here we like to take any opportunity to see the romance in each moment, I love to wax seal my letters. I've had this hobby since I was a little girl, so I've got waxes and seals from lots of different places that I've lived and traveled over the years. There is something so special about the ritual of picking which seal you will use, picking the right wax color, letting the wax drip slowly, and sealing your thoughts, hopes, and feelings with care. Another cozy hobby of mine is video games. When the busyness of life allows, I'd love to jump into another beautiful world, solve mysteries, learn new skills, and just enjoy the stunning art and music in the games. This season, I plan to dive into a few different games. The first is Potion Permit, a beautiful RPG set in the town of Moonbury. In it, you're a chemist who's recently moved to the town, and you need to brew up concoctions in your cauldron, gather supplies, and cure the native townspeople of their ailments. The next is Sakuna of Rice in Ruin. This game sees you following the spoiled harvest goddess Sakuna, who finds herself banished from her opulent celestial home to an island overrun by demons. Together with her guardian Tama and a group of outcast humans, they have to join hands to tame both the soil and the demons of Hino Island. The last game is the one I'm most excited about, Harvestella. It's from one of my favorite gaming companies, Square Enix. It's part RPG, part lifestyle, and farming sim. Here's a clip of the summary. Through the changing seasons, explore an imaginative world, tend your crops, make new friends, face enemies in dynamic combat, and unravel the mystery of the season of death, Quietus. I'm super excited to jump into this one. Finally, it would not be fall without one of the coziest activities around, baking. We love to make our own goodies at home and tend to lean toward nourishing and wholesome versions of the tastiest treats out there. I'm an avid cookbook reader and I have a large collection. I love to bring in different techniques and flavors to our kitchen. We've been baking sourdough in our home for over a year and a half and have taken inspiration from dozens of bakers, books, and YouTube channels. Before our oven broke this week, I don't honestly remember the last time we had bought bread. When we started experimenting with sourdough, a dear friend of mine gifted me Sarah Owen's sourdough cookbook. I use it weekly and I adore cooking with butternut squash. So this season, one of the loaves I'm making is her butternut squash loaf. I modify it a bit to yield an even softer, nuttier, lightly sweet loaf, which is full of whole grains. I've included my modifications below. A few years ago, I started experimenting to find my perfect butternut squash mac and cheese. After many trials, we found the most perfect, creamy, and flavorful recipe, so this fall we'll definitely be enjoying this one. This year, we decided to make our own large macaroni noodles, which are full of freshly milled and flavorful whole grains. It's such a treat in our household and a favorite for both the adults and the kids. My favorite thing about cooking is that it is as much about creativity as it is about remembering special people in your life and spending time with your most precious memories. When our close friends visited their family in Taiwan last year, they brought us back a mooncake mold. This year, I am making the most of it with our first attempt at homemade mooncakes. As I bake, I remember seeing their baby boy for the first time. I remember seeing him and my daughter run around the yard together in the summertime. Each time we enjoy these treats, I think of our friends and I cherish those memories. Thank you for taking the time to wander with me. I hope that you make the most of this season and that you find bits of magic in everything you do. Remember, your life is one of a kind, full of purpose and light. Happy fall, friends. If you liked this video and want to see more content about romanticizing life, remember to like and subscribe.